welcome to another episode of Nerds Amalgamated. I am the DJ, and with me today I have the Professor.
Hello, DJ.
We're back. Yeah, we're back after a long hiatus.
A little bit longer than we planned. Moving took time, but I'm in my new studio now, so hopefully things sound better.
Ooh, I would love to hear that. So, for today's episode, we'll be talking about the Planetary Defense System, Phil Spencer is he the hero or the villain, and Mass Defect, the TV show. So, and we'll be ending our episodes with the usual shout-outs and wacky movies. So, on to our first topic, the Planetary System. Or should I say, go Planetary Defense System!
Yeah, no.
I was trying to make it sound like a Power Rangers theme song, but that doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't really. NASA's newest launch is the DART mission, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. The goal of this one is to basically crash a spaceship into an asteroid and try to deflect it. It's not going to hit Earth, so let's hope they don't accidentally knock it into a collision course, but I think they've probably planned that out. But they're testing to see how well they can deflect the asteroid, so in the future when we actually need to deflect asteroids, we're ready for it.
It sounds crazy though, the whole idea of trying to deflect it.
It does sound pretty crazy.
I mean, what's wrong with the standard blow it up with a nuclear weapon and Bob's your uncle?
Well, the problem is, if you blow it up with a nuclear weapon, the asteroid is mostly going to keep coming. It's just now many smaller asteroids. And it's hard to make sure that you blow it up enough that the smaller bits of asteroid aren't going to do any damage when they hit the Earth. So it's probably easier in the long run to deflect rather than destroy.
And I like how they've selected the asteroid to test this on.
Yes, a binary asteroid system named Didymus, which is the Greek word for twin. It's an asteroid the size of a football stadium, orbiting a chunk of rock 5 times larger. So they're going to fly the DART impactor into the moonlet, which is Dimorphos, at 24,000 kilometers per hour. And they're aiming to shorten the orbital track by 10 minutes, so they're basically pushing it into a different orbit that's 10 minutes faster. But they're going to take 73 seconds as a success, because when you're dealing with something that big on that sort of range, a relatively small impact will push it off by a large deflection by the time it actually gets here.
I don't know whether this whole idea just reminds me of that one Red Dwarf episode. Remember that episode where Lister was playing planets with a pool cue?
Ah, yes. That's kind of what's going on here.
So, can you imagine the team at NASA just going like, okay, think of this 8-ball as the dart, think of the other balls as the asteroids. Okay, and the planets. So we're gonna try and think of the holes as the planets to dump it in. I can imagine the scientist in the meeting room be like, okay, we're gonna put this put this Dimorphos asteroid on the corner pocket. How are you gonna do that?
Well, you could also use it for war. It wouldn't be a very good weapon, but if there was a planet that you didn't like, and you bumped the asteroid just right, it would fly into the planet. But you need to find an asteroid that's already going the right direction, adjust its aim, hope that nothing happens to it on the way there, hope that the people on the planet who are probably going to see it coming from a long way away don't decide to go and nudge it a different way.
It'll take a whole lot of luck. Yeah, it will take a whole lot of luck just to find an asteroid. You're like, okay, oh, there's one right there. That kind of thing.
Hard part is putting in enough delta V to aim the asteroid. But it would be a good way of eliminating a primitive non-spacefaring race if you decide that you just don't get along with them anymore. Aliens, if you're listening to this podcast, please don't do that to us. We're better than we look, I swear.
I like how one of the quotes they say that the asteroid dart is aimed at posers no actual threat and is tiny compared to the cataclysmic Chicxulub asteroid that struck Earth about 66 million years ago, leading to the extinction of the dinosaurs.
Okay, you got to start small though. You're not going to take out Chicxulub first try, so you might as well test it on a smaller asteroid because you need less resources to redirect the smaller asteroid than you would need to actually go and redirect something the size of Chicxulub. But then smaller asteroids do tend to hit Earth more often, so this does have a benefit there.
Yeah. What's going to be interesting is how many Hollywood movies are going to be spawning out of this idea, though. I mean, goodbye Michael Bay's... No, not Michael Bay. Jerry Bruckheimer's Armageddon movie, where you just
We've already had Armageddon and Deep Impact.
Oh yeah, we already had that, but then the whole idea of sending a few people onto the asteroid and blowing it up from there. Now we're just using DART.
This isn't nearly as exciting though. Like, it's just launch a rocket from Earth, wait for it to get to the asteroid, deflect the asteroid, and then wait 100 years to see if it worked. It's not like Armageddon where you've got people actually going to the asteroid and actually blowing it up.
Like on the last paragraph of this article, they say NASA puts the entire cost of the DART project at $330 million, well below that of many space agencies' most ambitious science missions.
Cheap is good.
Yeah, cheap is good.
That means we can do this more often.
Can you imagine Elon Musk just playing, all right, I'm going to use my $330 million to just launch myself into Mars.
You're saying use Elon himself as the impactor.
No, can you imagine Elon just using himself as the impactor?
Yeah, so a human body, let's assume 70 kilograms, hitting Mars would do bugger all.
Yeah, okay, so theoretically speaking, how do you see the success of this idea?
I think it's likely to be successful. I think it's not that hard to actually hit a target in space when you understand, astrophysics, which I'm assuming NASA does. It's kind of their job. So it won't be that hard to actually hit the asteroid. Once it does hit, they'll be able to deflect it because it's a fairly simple equation. You've got the asteroid going this speed, these are the forces. You're applying this extra force, this is going to be the new vector. It's not exactly complex.
Yeah, but then
in terms of science, it's not complex.
That's true. But there are moments where you just go, okay, I did not anticipate this moment.
Yeah, something might go wrong. Maybe you'll lose communications with the probe. Maybe it'll get hit by debris on takeoff. Lots of things go wrong in space. But, everything that can be accounted for will be accounted for.
Yeah.
And once you leave Earth orbit, there's not really that much stuff out there. There's a small density of interplanetary dust and gas. But realistically, at the sort of speeds the DART impactor will be going, that's not going to be an issue.
And the other interesting questions would be, besides NASA, will there be any other space? Could we see other space agencies around the world adopting this model?
Yeah, I think we need a planetary defense initiative because an asteroid of significant size hitting one country will affect the whole world. So it would be best to avoid that anytime we can. Maybe the UN could take on planetary defense roles. They could found their own Space Corps. They could have Marine Corps, and then they could go and investigate aliens and rings.
But we already have a Space Corps.
We could call it Ring, the game that we make about it.
But we already have
I'm going with this, right, DJ?
Oh, kinda. But we already have a Space Corps. It's called Space Force.
That's American only, though. The UNSC would be international, and it would be responsible for planetary defense missions.
And I like some of the specifications about the DART spacecraft. It's cube-shaped with 2 rectangular solar arrays. That's it. Okay.
It doesn't need to be anything special. It's just mass. They're just basically throwing a stone at another stone to make the other stone go a different way.
Anyway, so in the interest of time, should we move on to the second topic?
We should.
Yep. So
Bill Spencer. I'm sure we've all heard of him.
Oh yeah. What has he done?
Well, he's the head of Xbox. You might have heard of that company.
Oh yeah. Yep, he's the head of Xbox. Yep.
Yep, surprise, surprise, what I said was true. And he's definitely a lot more popular than the last head of Xbox, Don, I think. I don't remember his last name. Especially since he says stuff that makes me very happy, like the industry should work on legal emulation, and NFT games feel more exploitive than about entertainment.
You mean the former Xbox head was Don Matrick?
Yeah, that's the one. Behind the famous, if you don't have an internet connection, we have a product for you, the Xbox 360. When the Xbox One was announced.
No way. Did he actually say that?
Yeah. The Xbox One announcement was an absolute disaster, and they then replaced Don Matrick with Phil Spencer.
So Phil Spencer has basically said the whole legal emulation and NFTs in gaming. Okay. Legal emulation, as much as I can say, it's a good idea. But on the other hand, it can also be a bad idea.
I feel like we should define legal emulation before we actually make decisions about it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So,
sure.
you probably realised by now, I'm a big fan of old games and keeping things running past their lifespan. Part of the reason for that is that the easiest way to play old games, and the only really legal way to play most old games, well, old console games, PC games are easier to play, but old console games, you need an original piece of hardware. And good luck finding an Atari that survived since the 70s unharmed. Or even an Xbox from 20 years ago has a capacitor in it that will blow up and take the Xbox with it.
Oh.
So it's getting harder to find original hardware, and most of it's already gone into the hands of collectors. But Phil seems to be a man after my own heart, and made a point about preserving the past of gaming. He said, "My hope, and I think I have to present it that way as of now, is as an industry we'd work on legal emulation that allowed modern hardware to run any, within reason, older executable, allowing someone to play any game." And you might think that just sounds like, let's play old games. But it's more complicated than that. It's not necessarily easy to emulate these old hardware. And fans have already done a pretty damn good job of emulating most consoles. But there are things that they can't get right or can't get working because they don't have that level of insider knowledge. They don't have access to the original datasheets for how the CPU works.
But wouldn't all those be located within the source codes?
No, the processor specification wouldn't be. So fans and emulator developers have to backwards engineer the hardware and figure out how it works, piece it back together and make the emulator. But a company like Microsoft has access to further information that would allow them to make a better, more complete emulator. They also have infinitely more funds than a indie team of emulator devs. And an emulator made by Microsoft would also not run the risk of being shut down, which is a risk that other emulator devs have to deal with.
But the other problem would be, can you imagine Xbox emulating Nintendo games? And Nintendo, they have a very, very big history with emulators and how they go about dealing with emulators.
Yeah, you can already do that, but Nintendo's not a big fan of emulation. They like the idea of being able to sell you the same game every 3 or 4 years. It's not perfect, but I don't think an Xbox would be emulating a Nintendo game unless Nintendo allowed it. Nintendo would develop their own emulator to run on Xbox.
See, my problem with legal emulation would be, let's say you've got the let's say, for example, you've got a Halo game, the original Halo game, and it has it has one of the original content, one of the original stuff in there that you will not see in the new version of the Halo game, like the Halo Remastered. So
specifically, that would most likely be the Red Cross logo on the health packs.
Yeah.
As it turns out, the Red Cross organization doesn't like it when games use Red Crosses on health packs. There's a whole big thing behind that I could dive into, but
yeah,
that is an issue. Licensing is an issue. Some older games have gone off the market because they contain music that isn't licensed anymore. Alan Wake went off the market for about a year because they were figuring out the licensing.
Yeah.
The GTA remasters have...
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Which one?
I know they're not great, but they have music taken out of them to suit the licensing issues. But if you have an original copy of the game, you can't you can't just shove an Xbox game in a Xbox One and hope for it to work. It needs to be part of the backwards compatibility system. And backwards compatibility is a bit different to the way that legal emulation would work. The backwards compatibility system that Microsoft has is basically remaking the game for the new console. They go in and tweak the executable and do a bunch of optimization and basically put together a new product. So when you put your CD in, you're not actually playing off the CD, you're playing a downloaded copy of the game that's heavily modified to run on the new Xbox. Whereas a legal emulation option would likely not get you the best performance. The best performance would be the backwards compatibility. The legal emulation might be buggier, but it would mean that you wouldn't need to wait for someone to make a port of the game. You could just take your game from 20 years ago and put it in your new console, and it will just work.
But as I said, the original content would be, there would be a bit of a problem with that.
Well, it's not a problem to own the game that has licensed content in it. The problem is selling it. So there still isn't a problem because you're not buying the game from Microsoft. Microsoft has nothing to do with the licensing in this case. It's you taking the game that you paid for 20 years ago and putting it into a console that you bought in the last 12 months and getting it to work. So I don't think that's an issue legally. I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but legally I don't think that's a problem at all.
And I like how his quote about this. He goes, "I think we can learn from the history of how we got here through creative." He said, "I love it in music, I love it in movies and TV, and there's positive reasons for gaming to want to follow." I mean, he's not wrong there.
Yeah, and with, as he also points out, with movies and music, it's relatively easy to bring it into the next generation.
Yeah,
people even still make new record players and new new tape players for playing older content. It's not like games where when your player breaks, you lose all access. There's still usually an option to be able to bring it back to life.
you know what's interesting about that quote, the more I think about it, is that even though the gaming industry earns a lot more money than the movies and the TV industry, it's backwards in a sense. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't say it's backwards. I'd say it's quite progressive.
I mean, as in, like, you could, like, with music, for example, you could, like you said, you can play the old music on with you can play the same old music on newer players and stuff.
If record companies figured out a way to do it, they would be doing what the games industry is doing and stopping you from playing your record on newer hardware.
Oh boy.
Have you ever heard of the RIAA?
The acronym sounds familiar, but I don't think I have. The recording.
If the RIAA had their way, we'd still be using CDs. Streaming would have never taken off. There are big established companies like that don't want people using their old stuff so they can sell them a new copy.
Yeah.
As game developers, we don't have to go that way. We can go and make a game that works, make sure that we can make games work 20 years down the line. We don't, because it's a lot of effort and
a lot of uncertainty as well.
Publishers don't necessarily like it, but there are fans who make emulators so that the culture is preserved. But if the RIAA and other record industry organizations had their way, do you remember before iTunes was a thing, how did you buy your music online?
The cassettes and CDs.
So you didn't buy music online at all?
No.
Okay. Well, I bought a couple of tracks for use in a school project back in 2004, 2005, thereabouts. It might have even been later than that. It might have been 2006. Anyway, not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. And it was all DRM'd. You had to buy it from particular stores. The DRM locked it down so you could only play it in certain players on certain computers. And that's not to mention the Sony rootkit controversy, where they were installing viruses onto CDs to stop people copying them.
Ooh.
But then, I'm going to praise Apple a little. I don't normally. iTunes came along, and part of Apple's requirement was that they really cut back on the DRM and everything. And that basically was the first step towards what we have now, where you can get your music on any of a dozen different services. They don't pay the artists great, that's a different issue, but access isn't an issue, for most music anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Beatles are exclusive with Apple. I don't know, it's been a long time since I've looked into that.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I will say this though, in terms of purchasing music and whatnot, it's not as crazy as how it is now with the NFTs.
Terrible segue, but yes, NFTs. I've made it very clear that I'm not a fan of NFTs. And I've made it very clear that I'm less of a fan of NFTs in games. But Phil Spencer has said that he considers NFT games currently to be more exploitative than about entertainment. And they're all speculation and experimentation, and that's not the kind of content he wants on the Xbox store. And that's sort of following along with Valve. Valve blocked NFT games a few months back. Epic Games has said that they're open to it, but ultimately I'm on the anti-NFT camp. I don't think the cost is worth the gain currently. If they could make an NFT that didn't have all of the negatives, I'd be cool with it, but no one's working on that, it seems. And I think, I agree with him that it's quite exploitative at the moment. Currently, the only games I've seen using NFTs have almost all been basically crypto scammers. I haven't seen any big publishers take on NFTs.
I mean, NFTs now have exploded. What was it, a couple of weeks ago? I saw the NFT about a monkey.
Yeah, the monkey nonsense.
Yeah, and how I saw a video from on YouTube where some guy was talking about, I could copy and paste this and not pay the 14 grand that it was originally priced.
You could, but then the NFT doesn't say that you own it, and don't you know that's the important bit for an ugly drawing of a monkey. They're hideous. And there's a group who want to buy a NBA team and put them on a crypto exchange. So you can buy cryptocurrency that is equivalent to shares. And they're like, oh no, this isn't shares. It's like, hey, we invented this 100 years ago. Get over yourself.
Are you serious? Wait. Are you serious? That's actually a thing?
Yes, it is.
Oh no. I'm looking at
I say, because it gets even crazier. Before they decided to buy the NBA team, they decided they wanted to buy the U.S. the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, I'm reading an article by Bobby Allen from NPR. How you say how crypto enthusiasts want to buy an NBA team after failing to purchase the U.S. Constitution. Oh boy.
Yeah, so
at this point, the NFTs are just get rich quick schemes. At this point,
currently we're in the sort of wild experimentation phase. There's some interesting ideas, but none of the implementations I've seen so far have really jumped out at me as anything worthwhile.
But but in terms of gaming, what do you think of it? What do you think of it, though?
I think it's a horrible thing for gaming. I think it's something that is a ridiculous waste of computing power for gaming. It's not the benefits that you would get from having a game that works with NFTs and on the blockchain don't really match the benefit that you'd get. They don't match the cost. And I think we're a few years away from actually seeing a worthwhile NFT game. We did speak a few weeks ago about an NFT metaverse where owning the NFT of something would basically give you permission to, use that as your avatar across the metaverse. That's an interesting implementation, but it hasn't been done yet. But I'm still not convinced that making that an NFT rather than a simple storefront is actually worth the effort. I'm just happy to see that there's big companies who are, making the point that currently NFTs are absolutely nuts
But it's only a matter of time before let's say EA decides to come in and to say, we're going to use NFTs on our sports games like FIFA.
Yeah, only a matter of time. And they're going to do it because it makes good marketing. I just don't think it's worth the cost.
And the other question would be, like, with NFTs and gaming, do you reckon it's becoming more and more lucrative than the traditional loot boxes that we sort of been experiencing for years and years now?
They're kind of a different thing. Yeah, they're really a different thing. You could buy a loot box as an NFT, so they don't really exclude each other.
So what does this mean for the future of gaming when Phil Spencer says this idea is very exploitative in a sense? Do you reckon that's a time to pause and reflect, or is he just...
I think I made my point clear that yes, we need to pause and reflect and think about the impacts of NFTs and how we're using them, rather than shoving them into anything we can for marketing purposes.
But I agree with you there. But like, I would like to see more voices come up and talk about this. Like, I mean, Phil Spencer, yeah, he is a big wig, but I don't see anyone else talking about it. Like, I don't see, for example, Todd Howard, the guy behind the Fallout games, talking about how NFTs are destroying the games industry, in a sense.
You've got a lot of big people. I mean, Take-Two have actually stated that they are into NFTs. So the problem is we're not seeing anyone actually discuss the implementation, I think. I think we're just seeing people saying, do it because it's the current hype thing and it will make us a boatload of money. I think we need to talk about the implementation and work out how this is going to work and why we should be doing it this way and not another way.
How long do you reckon before before government starts coming in and going, oi, pay up, guys?
Right away.
Like what they did with the loot boxes, though? I mean...
loot boxes took years, but the governments are already onto crypto and NFTs.
Okay. I do remember there was a story a couple of months back that China does not allow crypto anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure people are already actually, breaking the law there, but it's, it is what it is. Governments are going to try to regulate it. People are going to try to get around it because people think the whole point of crypto is to not be regulated by the government.
So we should move on to to our final topic, the Mass Defect, the TV show, or it's Mass Effect, the TV show. But according to Spencer McCauley, Amazon, in a new report, are on the verge of creating a Mass Effect TV series.
Oh dear.
You don't sound happy.
I don't think this can be good, because the whole point of Mass Effect is that, I know people got upset about the ending of the third game, but a big point of it is that your choices matter, and you're developing your own version of Captain Shepard. So they're going to take this, and if it's a straight adaptation of the games, they've got to come up with a canonical Shepard.
So Amazon's head, Jennifer Salke, asserted, and I quote, "We can firmly say that The Wheel of Time is the most watched series premiered of the year and one of the top 5 series launches of all time for Prime Video." And she also added, "There are tens and tens of millions of streams for the series is just, in fact, 3 days of release." Although, mind you, she hasn't disclosed any information about it, but simply telling, try to figure out how transparent we're going to be in the future, and viewership was, and I quote, "definitely trending to exceed our expectations, which are high."
Yeah, so it's all a bunch of noise, really. They're saying that they're making a bunch of money with the shows they've got, and they're ready to work on more, and they want to work on Mass Effect. But they won't say what it's going to be. So I can see this going horribly, horribly wrong.
And it's interesting you mentioned that, because she also said, "You'll see us continuing to invest in fantasy genre of all kinds. We have a genre-focused team on the ground in studios who work tirelessly with our creative partners on these slates, and you can look forward to more." Oh boy.
Yeah, I think they're grabbing up anything really popular. So they've got some interesting stuff going on. Foundation, I think, is one of theirs. Wheel of Time. Let's just hope that they're movie and series department can pull off better hits than the game studio.
I mean, it's fun to see Amazon like doing some interesting stuff. I mean, they've recently had some good hits, like the Invincible series, for example, really good series. They also got the hyped up Lord of the Rings series, which, oh boy, that's going to be an interesting one.
Yep.
With this one, I feel like it's going to be hard to put it, because you're right. You have to make a canonical Shepard and all the other characters. What's going to be even more interesting is how the character dynamics are going to be placed. Are you going to get like with Mass Effect the game, like you would get like romances with other aliens and stuff? Like, are you going to see that in the series, or
just throw it all in? Make Captain Shepard the thirstiest man in the galaxy, or woman, if they decide to go that way. Everyone. Captain Shepard should be reporting to Medbay with new STDs from whatever planet he's just landed on. Basically how Star Trek went, but you get
oh boy, that's Captain Shepard going to where no man has gone before, somewhere. Like, I think it comes down to whoever's writing the series. Like if they can write a decent enough like space sci-fi series for Amazon, then okay, sure, because space sci-fi and Amazon have not been having a good run, like with how Picard went in the recent months and years. It didn't go well, so I'm thinking they might try and recoup the space genre with this.
Was Picard an Amazon show?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so they've got a couple of fantasy hits, but yeah, they don't seem to have a sci-fi hit at the moment. Maybe this is it. I'm assuming, I just think that unless they take it and do a story set outside the main games, it's going to be an absolute disaster.
Oh, wait, I was wrong. It wasn't, it's not Amazon, it's a CBS show. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was mistaken. I was right.
Bloody let me down again, DJ.
Sorry. But yeah, I just think the American sci-fi shows have been going, they've been going badly these days. I mean, Star Trek Discovery, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about that show. Picard, it's a mess. The only good shows we have is the Orville and the one with Steve Carell in it.
Space Force?
Yeah.
And even that one's hardly sci-fi.
What would you like to see in the Mass Effect TV series?
I don't know. I mean, I'm a sucker for digging into the background of different alien species and planets they live on, but I don't think that'll be something that they'll actually try.
I could actually see that. Yeah, I could actually see that happening. It will take a lot of time. It will take a lot of time.
Like, what is the life of an average person in the Mass Effect Alliance? Because, in the games you follow Captain Shepard, who's the big damn hero. But what's it like, living on a planet? They could do a politics featured thing and have all the species arguing in the Citadel.
Although, okay, curiously though, could you see this show as a stepping stone for future game to TV series adaptations? In your point of view,
only if it's good. If it's bad, then we'll see everyone freak out, shy away from game adaptations again. I'm hoping though that we're going through a bit of a renaissance of sci-fi. We'll have to wait and see though.
Yeah, that's true. Anyways, we'll take a short break and we'll be back with our shoutouts and wacky movie. So, on to our shoutouts. We're a bit late, but on the 11th of the 11th, we passed the 20th anniversary of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone film adaptation. The film adaptation were as much of a hit as the original novels and led to 8 film adaptations and a set of 3 Fantastic Beasts spin-offs. Just about every significant British actor had a role in the series, which author J.K. Rowling insisted on being as British as possible. And damn, that movie was a great movie.
Yes, the first half of the series adapted to movie quite well, but I don't think the second half did quite as well because it was so much denser. I think there's a lot more going on, and I think they sort of ran into time constraints with the later movies.
Yeah, I mean, it shows when you had the Deathly Hallows split into two parts.
Yeah, they also, I don't think, were as sure of what the story was going to be as J.K. Rowling was. So, actually, yeah, so no, that doesn't add up really because the last book came out in 2007 and the last movie came out in 2011. So it does feel like they didn't know what was going to be significant though. So there's a few things that they didn't set up that they should have set up in earlier movies.
Do you have any favorite memories from the first Harry Potter movie?
Well, I know I was one of the first Australians to go and see it.
Oh,
Because
nice.
my school had a fundraiser to go to a viewing.
I was like,
Have you read the books though?
I've always mean to find the movies more
Alright.
entertaining, but do you have a favorite scene?
There's a few of them. I mean, the actual final duel between Harry and Voldemort in the last movie is pretty the side of that are a bit silly, but the actual duel itself is good.
With the
I
philosopher's...
think actually basically anything with Voldemort, because Ralph Fiennes is so creepy.
Oh, yeah. Well, with the first movie, though, did you have any favorite scenes in that one?
Right. I don't know, it's been a long time since I've actually watched the first movie, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I'm sure was the first movie and not the second.
I've got one. I've got a couple, but my most favorite one is the one where Hagrid just breaks down the door when and just goes up to Harry, just gives him the letter of Hogwarts, and
they really did overreact a bit to get away from the letters.
and I like how one of the guys pointed the gun at Hagrid, and Hagrid just twisted the end of it just to the ceiling. You ain't shooting me.
Yeah, though I remember even when I was young how silly it was that the shots curved. Like, that's not how barrels work. They can't turn that tightly. That's not going to happen. But it's still a great scene.
Yeah, and what did you thought about the whole twist at the end with when we all suspected that it was Snape, but at the end it wasn't Snape, it was Professor Quirrell.
I'd read the book already, so I knew that was coming. But it does a good job of setting up Snape as the bad guy, and then you realise no, it's Quirrell, and you realise all of the little things that are actually his doing.
Yeah. So moving along, on the 23rd, the Tamagotchi celebrated its 25th birthday. If you didn't forget to feed it, Tamagotchis, which were 10-pixel creatures that lived in a keychain fob, had unpausable real-time life, which required real attention, leading players to risk trouble in class to keep their pets alive. They were also one of the first games to use this style of continuous real-time interaction. Across the entire range, more than 82 million Tamagotchis have been sold. Did you ever own one when you were around that time?
No, I've never had a Tamagotchi, but my brother has had a knockoff.
How addicted was he?
I don't know if the knockoff was harder than the Tamagotchi originals, but he basically couldn't keep it alive. Also, there was a reset button that was really easy to accidentally press.
Oh, yeah. And I like with Tamagotchis how it was so addictive, like people would just go, I gotta go, I gotta feed my Tamagotchi, damn it.
What's the longest you ever kept one alive for?
Oh, I never, okay, full disclosure, I have never owned a Tamagotchi, but I played its, would you call it a brother? The Digimon, and I kept that going for 4 days.
Not great.
Yeah, this was the muscular Digimons were the muscular counterpart. Yeah, 4 days, but it was just me and my brother. We would just continuously fight over stuff, so yeah.
Brothers.
But initially that thing was a craze. That was a craze. So moving along, David Lawson, co-founder of Psygnosis and Imagine Software, passed away on the 25th at 62. He co-founded Imagine in 1982 when he was 23, where he wrote for Arcadia and R. Diddums for ZX Spectrum. The studio fell apart while working on Bandersnatch and Cyclops in 1984, with Lawson moving on to co-found Psygnosis. Psygnosis created Wipeout and helped DMA Designs with Lemmings. They were eventually bought by Sony and were one of the biggest devs in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, they had a whole lot of games back in the day.
Yeah, and also Bandersnatch might be familiar to you. It's a mythical creature, but it's also the game that they were making in the Netflix Choose Your Own Adventure.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Is that thing still going though, or have they?
No, it was only a one-off.
Did you ever have a favorite Psygnosis game back in the day?
I probably did, but I probably can't remember it. But Lemmings is always a classic. They did work on that with DMA Design, who you might know better as Rockstar Games.
Okay.
Yep, that Rockstar, GTA, they're the people who made the original Lemmings game.
My favorite Psygnosis game back in the day would be Metal Fatigue, and it was basically create your gigantic robot and fight against other gigantic robots.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I see it's on Steam.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna buy that game when we finish recording then. So on to our wacky movie, and on the same day in 1977, Logan's Run arrived in Spain. Logan's Run was an early dystopian movie centered around a self-contained city where everyone is ritually sacrificed to maintain the population when they turn 30. Some residents try to escape to the outside world, while policeman Logan hunts them. And there was some interesting trivia to that movie. So, for example, Logan's Run was filmed in a mall under construction, which was a futuristic setting for the 70s, but seemed very dated today. The retro-futurist mall was the Dallas Market Center.
They also filmed the scene with the weird fountain with the steps. That's at the Fort Worth Water Garden, which is basically part of Dallas. Fort Worth, Dallas are sort of two towns next to each other. One of them founded around a military base.
Nice.
So, the airport is Dallas Fort Worth Airport.
This was the first movie to combine live-action shots with holograms. The ice cave was filmed in summer in Los Angeles. Extra frozen in ice were painted white and had to stand perfectly still. Oh, that's gotta be tough. I mean, that has to be insane.
Yeah, I can't imagine that was very comfortable.
In a hot summer in Los Angeles, you're asking for it. Although homosexuality has been defined as a mental illness until a few years earlier, Logan's Run is very progressive and depicted homosexual relationships as normal and common. The ruined city scenes used abandoned sets from other films, and the Sandman energy weapons used butane canisters to create a muzzle flash. The mechanism was very unreliable, and Michael York said, "The guns fired as much as they fired." Oh, misfired. Sorry.
Come on, DJ. Get your glasses on.
Yeah, that must have been crazy that must have been crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would have been fun. I'm hoping that it was only when they were actually handling them and they didn't have little butane explosions going off in their pockets.
Oh boy, imagine a chunk of your leg just blown up by that. Ugh.
Probably wouldn't blow up. It would just give you some nasty burns.
I will say this though, with all this interesting trivia with this movie, you gotta admit the practical effects there was a lot of emphasis on practical effects. I mean, can you imagine doing this nowadays?
To be fair, they didn't exactly have CGI in the 70s.
Oh yeah, but the amount of creativity that went to it to how to get the effects. But nowadays it's just, okay, we're gonna make this a $5 million CGI mess.
Yeah, sort of had even more CGI and green screen than they did.
Yeah. So that's all we have for this week. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that'snotcanon.com, where we have an archive of our old episodes and new episodes, and also find other That's Not Canon podcasts. And that's all we have for this week. Hope to see you soon.
Look after yourselves, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time.